Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. In this story of Tyler Robinson, and of course in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, there are so many things that are unknown, so many things left to us, for us all to question, so many things for the FBI to investigate and get to the bottom of. So many things that the media is insisting that means nothing. When they're seeing the motive right in front of their face, they ask the question, but what is the motive? I'm sort of tired of hearing the media say this when the motive is very, very clear. The motive is simply hatred, you know, hatred that this young man garnered all of this hatred against this conservative speaker, this orator at colleges, campuses, that most of the message he was bringing was a message that college students really did not want to hear, that they were sort of the antithesis of the message that he was delivering on college campuses. But we also have to question, how did this 22-year-old man get to this way? Tyler Robinson, the man accused of shooting Charlie Kirk, was a stellar student in high school, raised in a Republican home in Southwest Utah and training to be an electrician. This is according to the New York Times. In the conservative southern Utah city where Tyler Robinson grew up, neighbors and classmates described him as a reserved, intelligent young man raised in a Republican family who was deeply interested in video games, comic books, and current events. On Friday afternoon, people who knew Mr. Robinson struggled to reconcile their memories of him and his seemingly ordinary suburban upbringing with his notorious new image, the latest face of political violence, accused of fatally shooting the conservative influencer Charlie Kirk on a Utah college campus earlier this week in what authorities have called a political assassination. It's really sad that someone with his mind put to that sort of use, said Keaton Brooksby, 22, a former high school classmate of Mr. Robinson's. Mr. Robinson had recently spoken with a family member about the fact that Mr. Kirk was going to hold an event in Utah, according to a police affidavit, and his relative discussed what they didn't like about him and his viewpoints he had. But elements of the nation's political left and right scramble for motives. The image that has initially emerged of Mr. Robinson is not at all clear. Neither is his trajectory from a scholarship-winning high school student to an apprentice electrician to a suspect. So that is the big question that everyone is asking. How did this young man become radicalized? Yes, he did become radicalized. He went from 0 to 100 miles per hour in a very short period of time. How did he garner this level of hate that he acted upon? Took a Mossberg 30-06 and went up on a rooftop on the Utah Valley University campus and fired one shot, hitting Charlie Kirk in the neck and killing him. Almost instantaneously, we were told that Charlie was brought to a hospital where he died in surgery. But if you watch that video, a very, very disturbing video, it appears that Charlie Kirk didn't have much life in him right on the scene. Despicable, right? And when you think about the bigger picture, that this shot was fired to silence someone's freedom of speech. And we've had all kinds of discussions in the last 5 years about freedom of speech, censorship, and hate speech. One side named it hate speech. Isn't hate speech freedom of speech? So if you're going to stop someone from speaking, Isn't that censorship? So what is it about their speech that makes it hate speech? Is it that you disagree with it? We've mentioned the history of some of these freedom of speech cases in the United States, and the famous one was in Skokie, Illinois, where Nazis wanted to march in a neighborhood that was populated by Holocaust survivors. I can't think of a more insensitive demonstration of freedom of speech than that. Yet, the American Civil Liberties Union backed up the Nazi Party and ultimately took the case to court and won and allowed them to march, not because they agreed with them, but because they wanted to fight, even for this despicable group of people, the Nazi Party, for them to march. And they felt the case was much bigger than this group of people. So where have we come since the Skokie, Illinois marches to today, when speech that you disagree with is now called hate speech? So folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your cup of coffee, your service dog. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off the cuff zone, the police off the cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
Everyone that has been following this case wants to know motive, but yet when they're told motive, if they're from a certain side of the aisle, a certain political persuasion, they don't want to accept the motive as delivered by law enforcement or as delivered by people in the know, people that are privy to this investigation. They question, was he radicalized? And how is hatred a motive? They're not accepting this. So I question that. What is the motive of the press when they refuse to accept the findings of law enforcement that is right in front of their face, delivered right to them? This is from News Nation.
Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin acted on the deeply irresponsible rhetoric of the left. That is our Why It Matters segment tonight. Here is the Utah County prosecutor detailing what we know about the suspect.
Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there is too much evil and the guy, referring to Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate.
Prosecutors also released text messages between the suspected shooter and his transgender roommate/lover. This is part of their exchange. The roommate says, why? The suspect responds, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Suspect, I had enough of Charlie Kirk's hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. That's the lover, that's the suspect. Another exchange details how the family's political leanings ostracized the suspect. The suspect allegedly wrote, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. He then goes on to say to his boyfriend, quote, you are all I worry about, love. Again, we're talking about a person who's charged with capital murder and now facing the death penalty. That is the guy on the left. So those text messages came out this afternoon in real time. All the media got them. And this is how ABC News reported the story.
It was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love.
If this wasn't so serious, it would be like parody. But this is that serious, and that is where ABC News views these text messages. They were touching. For the past week, much of the media has held out the fallacy that the shooter wasn't a left-wing loon. You couldn't call him a left-wing assassin. We did on this show a few times, and people would scream at us. Our guests would. You couldn't say he was motivated by trans rights. We saw other networks go from saying we don't know a motive to let's take politics out of this to, well, actually, he was inspired by the right.
5 days after Charlie Kirk's murder, the shooter's motive remains elusive.
We have to take left, right out in this.
And he may have been a Groyker, which is a follower of Nick Fuentes, who's on the right.
The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them.
It's very, very clear what happened here. And there is a movement by some people to...
Yeah, it is crystal clear what happened here. That last clip, where CNN couldn't figure out if it was clear, came moments after the press conference that clearly laid out the shooter's beliefs in his own words. And people at CNN are still trying to deny it. One of the saddest parts of this story is that the motive was entirely predictable. In fact, Charlie Kirk himself predicted someone harboring these views would try to kill him. This is a clip of him with Bill Maher back in April.
We have different jihadis that want to kill me. The purple-haired jihadis, the woke guys.
Well, they want to kill me just as bad.
Probably.
Oh, they really do.
No, you've been very outspoken on the woke stuff. Big time.
Yes. I mean, and they just the way within a religion they hate their own apostates more. I would say they hate me more because I'm supposed to like get on the short bus to Crazy Town with them.
It's a scary bus to be on. At the time, it sounded funny from Maher. Now, quite literally, it is deadly serious. Crazy Town is killing people because you disagree with them or because you expose them. And the only way to stop that is to do what we do every night on this program. Very simple. Tell the truth.
Thank you for...
So, to me, I think I'm a fair-minded person. Perhaps I lean one way more than the other. But if this isn't as clear as day what the motive is for this, then I think that the side that's not accepting it is either delusional or they're lying not just to their audience, but to themselves. It's incredible to also think that perhaps you can't see that motive in this case was hatred. Hatred, in this instance, for Charlie Kirk, a man who exercised his freedom of speech, a man who, and people will say, speech that you disagree with, and I thought we got rid of this term, is hate speech. That is a term of people that don't want to hear what someone is saying. So they call it hate speech. So now you don't have a right to say things that may make someone feel unsafe. There's another little term coming from the woke. You may, by your speech, you may make someone feel unsafe in their own skin. So maybe you shouldn't be allowed to say it. Is that true? Is that, CNN's John Miller says alleged Kirk assassin picked grievances from a salad bar of extremism. That sounds pretty damn interesting to me. CNN law enforcement analyst John Miller warned Friday that the alleged assassin of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk appears to reflect a growing trend of radicalized individuals who draw from an incoherent mix of extremist ideologies. Tyler Robinson allegedly fatally shot Kirk during a Utah Valley University event, with law enforcement later recovering bullet casings inscribed with anti-fascist and other leftist messages. During a segment on The Lead with Jake Tapper, Miller said recent lone wolf attackers often have no clear ideological through line, instead cobbling together disparate resentments from online sources. The perpetrators are selecting grievances from a salad bar where they mix and match different themes that have no mooring to their upbringing or family beliefs, according to Miller. And a lot of this is driven by people who become lost and isolated, find their way to the internet, are already angry, depressed, and looking to lash out. And at the back end of that, decide, well, what they're going to lash out about. Miller said a wave of politically or ideologically charged attacks are occurring with alarming frequency across this country. One of the things we're seeing, and you can go back to recent events, whether it was the shooting in Washington, D.C. of the 2 Israeli embassy employees at the Jewish Museum, or the attack on politicians, elected officials outside Minneapolis at their homes by an individual posing as a police officer, or, the shooting in the church in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago. These things are happening literally every other week, Miller said. Authorities identified 22-year-old Robinson as the suspected shooter in Kirk's assassination after a family friend alerted law enforcement. Robinson allegedly told his father he would rather die by suicide than turn himself in, prompting his father to connect with their youth pastor. So, a salad bar of grievances, a salad bar of hatred, if you will, a salad bar of extremism. Is this person, Tyler Robinson's own life, that unimportant that it made the murder of Charlie Kirk much more important than his own life? Because let's face it, right now, he is facing the death penalty. He is facing a life in prison without parole. Whatever way you slice it, it's not a very hopeful future he has, is it? Folks, I'm going to go to a quick commercial. FanDuel is the new sponsor of Police Off the Cuff podcast. FanDuel is the new sponsor for the Police Off the Cuff podcast. FanDuel. Football season's finally here. Have you checked out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on FanDuel Sportsbook? Think the Bills are headed to the Super Bowl? You can lock in your bets today, whatever your game. FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on all of the action. I'm eyeing college football. Who's your pick for the Heisman? Plus, I'm loading up on parlays and player props like Saquon Barkley breaking his own single-season rushing record. With the Major League Baseball postseason right around the corner, FanDuel has you covered with player specials and unique props. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on the action. FanDuel, the new sponsor of the Police Off the Cuff podcast. We're thrilled to have them. This is from ABC News.
He's taken into custody.
The FBI says the arrest happened some 33 hours after the assassination. Here's how it all unfolded. The suspect was identified as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Robinson's father recognized his son from the photos released of the shooting suspect. He urged his son to turn himself in. Robinson initially said no, but changed his mind. He was taken into custody and later booked on murder charges. Investigators are now digging into his background and a possible motive for the shooting. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Haskell is live in Orem, Utah, with more on the details of the arrest. Josh?
Colleen and Giovanna, those here in Orem, Utah, they are relieved that Charlie Kirk's shooter is now in custody. But we are learning a lot about the 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. He is a resident of Washington County, Utah. For reference, that is near Zion National Park. That's a 4-hour drive from where we are at the scene of the shooting at Utah Valley University.
We got him.
Charlie Kirk's alleged shooter in custody, thanks to the help of his own father, who recognized Tyler Robinson in the photos posted by the FBI. Thursday night, Robinson's father called a youth pastor who is also a U.S. Marshals Task Force officer. The officer advised the suspect's father to have Robinson stay in place, and by 10 at night, Robinson was arrested.
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th And in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had.
The investigation also revealed Robinson arrived at Utah Valley University at 8:29 the morning of Charlie Kirk's event, hours before it started. His vehicle observed on campus. Also, investigators say Robinson changed outfits while in Orem, Utah, and later messaged his roommate on the widely popular online platform Discord, asking him to retrieve the weapon used in the shooting. A former classmate of Robinson said they were stunned to hear he may have carried out the attack and never heard him express hate or malice towards others.
Utah is usually known as a safe state, but now I don't think that's going to be the connotation anymore, and it's pretty sad.
I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history?
Supporters of Charlie Kirk continue to come to UVU's campus to pay their respects and remember the conservative activist.
He had a really big influence on me, just being able to accept and be able to talk to people. I don't agree with him at all anymore, basically, but he still had a really big influence in the way that I kind of approach talking to people around politics.
Now, video appearing to show Tyler Robinson in the moments after the shooting show him walking with a limp. Law enforcement sources tell ABC News that rifle, he was hiding that rifle underneath his clothes, which they believe is why he had a limp. Colleen and Giovanna?
Now to developments in the Charlie.
Interesting. Hang on a second. The investigation is still quite early. So people rushing to say that he acted alone, there's no evidence of. The investigation is only 7 days old, all right? We are so used to immediate gratification in regards to law enforcement. They do such a good job. And in this case, the arrest came 33 hours after the incident. But let's not make the mistake of saying he absolutely acted alone. That's irresponsible reporting. Let the FBI and the investigative bodies that are investigating this case tell us, yeah, we're satisfied that he acted alone. Or no, we think there's still evidence that he may have had help, that there may have been others involved. And the motive for all the news reporters that can't figure this one out, the motive is hatred. Hatred against the freedom of speech of Charlie Kirk, even though he didn't agree with them, the shooter, Tyler Robinson. Many people don't agree with him, but no one gets a 30-06 and goes up on a building and kills the man. Kills Charlie Kirk in front of his children and his wife and 3,000 other people. Takes his life because he didn't like what he was saying. And I think that to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk, we have to accept and we have to realize that hatred exists, and hatred is demonstrated usually with the barrel of a gun. And we can't let Charlie Kirk's death be in vain. We have to speak out against acts of violence like this. We have to speak out and join the side of reason and not partisanship and not trying to figure out, is this left or is this right? I think we need to stop all acts of violence like this. And I think we have to call speech freedom of speech, not hate speech, even if it's speech that we disagree with. So my message today is to the media. Yeah, the motive is known. The motive was hatred. And to take the life of a man who was spreading information, spreading his political views, but didn't deserve to be murdered for it. So that's my report for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.
One episode this ain't enough.